feet of the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Morning Scoop for Monday, August 8th. Today is the OG edition. I'm so excited to announce our newest staff member, TJ Downing. More importantly, though, the Buckeyes are officially moved into the Hyatt Place Hotel. Training camp is here. These guys, this is the very beginning of a long, dark tunnel that they're in because training camp sucks. Sucks for the players, sucks for the coaches. I'm going to get TJ's thoughts on what camp was like for him. But yeah, this is the grind time. This is the toil. This is, people love college football. They don't want to see how the sausage is made, but this is when it really gets made. It sucks. And these guys are right in the middle of camp, and they're just, kind of counting on down the days until they can get out of that hotel and get back to their apartment. So that being said, as always, we are very thankful for you guys. Thank you so much. Our page is growing. Added a ton of new subscribers to BuckeyeScoop.com in the last 3 days. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It all helps. Add a like. Maybe for this one, comment on who do you want to see emerge as a starter through training camp. Obviously, throughout the season, no job is really safe. If you don't perform, you can be replaced. But, who are your dark horses to start? Who are some guys that you want to hear about in training camp, see how they're doing? Some of the freshmen, I think CJ Hicks is already making a move to jump in with the twos. But who are you looking forward to hearing about? And leave that in the comments. So that being said, I'm going to bring in the OG, my man, TJ Downing. TJ, how are you today?
Good, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm excited, man. Excited as hell. I got my offensive guard with me, one of my best friends in the world, one of the baddest dudes to ever put on the scarlet and gray, maybe the toughest dude ever put on the scarlet and gray. TJ, welcome to Buckeye Scoop. I appreciate you, brother, joining the squad. Tell people a little bit about yourself. We'll keep it brief because we're going to come back in another segment and go a little deeper dive. But what can people expect from TJ Downing on BuckeyeScoop.com?
Rocking Tennessee shirts, talking about SEC, talking about how they're the best in the world.
Oh my God! I was like, he must be doing yard work or changing his oil or something. He's rocking a Tennessee shirt on his first show.
But yeah, our boy Alex Golish sent it to me, man. He came on one of my shows that I had last year, and he's the OC down there at Tennessee now. So we were chopping it up, man. He was kind of telling me about what they had going on in their winter conditioning and how they were heading into spring ball, and he really likes his team. And so I was like, listen, man, at the end of the show, we got to swap T-shirts. I got to get some Tennessee gear. And I said, I rock it. I did just get done doing yard work, so I was wearing it to do yard work. I haven't officially worn it out of the house yet. I'm not that courageous. But I do like how you said that, though, because, that's some pretty elite company. Maybe the baddest dude to ever, the toughest dude to ever line up at Ohio State. So, even though I don't have a tree, maybe I can just hang my hat on being the toughest dude ever.
Yeah, you don't have a tree and you don't have a knee. I know that 'cause I personally stepped on your foot when you got your knee blown out by a bull rush in the spring game. So I was like, oh God, I just blew my guard's knee out in the spring game. We're gonna have to get Connor Smith ready to go. So
big purse.
Oh, big purse. So I'm gonna get right into the show. So this was a huge one. Did you ever see USC coming to the Big Ten? Something that I know when we played, USC was kind of like the Alabama back then, the Clemson. Like that was a team that, they just had ballers. That was a team that we watched a lot, because we played Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. So we watched the Notre Dame USC game probably 6,000 times during that December. Every clip was Reggie Bush and watching Sam Baker.
That was the push heard around the world.
Yeah, it was the Bush push, exactly. But your thoughts on USC joining the Big Ten?
I think it's good. Obviously, from the outside looking in, logistically, it doesn't seem to make sense at all. Outside of football and the TV contracts and the contract between those athletic programs for just specifically football and then basketball, which we know pretty much at every major university, those are your two breadwinners, and everybody else pretty much just feeds off of it. So how's that going to work out when the softball team has to travel to Rutgers, or you've got the rowing team who's going out to the West Coast? These are added expenses when, you talk about fuel costs these days and just travel in general. I think within the Big Ten, wasn't it, if we were under 150 miles or something, you took a bus? This is cross-country travel. I don't know if it makes sense for some of the smaller varsity sports that don't bring anything to the table and are just going to feed off that bottom line. But I mean, as it sits, you can only imagine what type of TV contract you're going to get when USC and the Buckeyes line up, in a primetime game. I mean, that's bound to happen. I think UCLA will continue to get better. I think both of these teams, I mean, they present a different dynamic. It's out of the Midwest. When we think about the Big Ten, we always associate it with the Midwestern states. So this is adding a new flavor. College football in general itself is a completely brand new flavor, even to when you and I played in it just, 15, 16, 17 years ago, it seems with how everything is shaken out that they're forming like two super groups, two super conferences, and either get in where you fit in or be left out and not compete for a Division I national championship. So it's a rat race right now.
Yeah, and I think it's going to turn into the NFL where you've got the AFC and the NFC, and they're both coast to coast, and it's going to be the SEC versus the Big Ten, and they're going to battle it out in the playoffs. And I think everybody else is going to be, I don't know if they're going to form their own division and they're going to be, one, double A plus or what they're going to do. But I mean, there's a lot of schools that, frankly, they're not going to have the money to compete because once the Big Ten gets a TV contract and if Apple and Amazon are bidding on it, like is rumored versus Fox, I mean, Apple and Amazon have basically infinite money. So they can basically write whatever ticket they want. And, they have Amazon Prime, they have Apple TV, 2 streaming services. And, what better way to get a bunch of people to subscribe to it than make it the exclusive home to the Big Ten or the SEC. And, I think that, if they get into it and, if you're Apple and you can get the Los Angeles market to the New York market with Chicago in the middle, it just makes all the sense in the world. And I think it's going to revolutionize, football. I mean, I think that we're going to go down to maybe 40 teams that are in the super conference. And then, there's going to be a lot of have-nots to kind of fall down. And, it'd be interesting to see if some of the smaller schools, like some of the, the MAC schools, Sun Belt schools, if they try to join 1AA, so they could be like a big fish in a little pond instead of a minnow in the ocean. So that'll really be fascinating. So I'm going to move us on to our next topic, which is our favorite topic, training camp. So yesterday, Sunday, was the first day that the guys had to move into the hotel. TJ, it's August. It's 2002. You're a freshman. It's like August 5th, probably. What were your thoughts going into your first training camp when you're checking into University Plaza on Olentangy River Road, which no longer exists, thank God, because that place was a dump. What were your thoughts checking into that hotel? Get ready for your first camp as a member of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Well, first off, man, just to close out your Amazon Apple thought, look no further than the NFL, right? Did Amazon just get the Thursday night game? Okay. So, I mean, it's happening there. Once it happens there, there's going to be trickle down effect. And, going into training camp, I mean, your first year, you don't know what to expect. You think you're training right when Al Johnson would just send us the program. You're supposed to do it at your high school. You're not doing it like they are there. It's not like Cochran out there having you run sprints afterwards. It's not the same level. It's not the same the high energy tempo that you get in an Ohio State weight room. So, for me, like I went into training camp thinking, all right, I might be able to squeeze into the 2 deep, and it wasn't even close. I mean, I couldn't even stand in front of Will Smith for longer than 2 or 3 seconds. I mean, let alone Darian Scott and Tim Anderson. And, once I finally got to, at least like year 2 and year 3, when, you could stop guys like Simon Frazier, or you could block a guy like Kenny Peterson, and, actually feel like you can accomplish something with inside the offense, it becomes a lot easier. But your first training camp, just trying to get in front of a guy that's that much faster than you is the biggest goal. And I mean, for me, it was tough. I mean, you remember how good of a player Will Smith was. I mean, he's a legend. I don't think I've, pound for pound ever seen an overall better defensive player in my time there. We saw a ton of great defensive players, but Will Smith was just on a whole different level. God rest his soul. I actually got a chance to golf with one of our coaches up at Tyson Gentry's outing up in Sandusky, and I was golfing with Todd Alice, and he's now back on the sidelines coaching for Dublin Kaufman this year. And they have Will Smith's son who's committed. And they're like, he just said, TJ, he goes, he's a replica. He's got that low stance where he'd crouch down over the tackle and kind of put his face mask about 2 inches away from the ground. And his get off was just so quick that by the time you're taking your first kick step, you're done. Speed rush, already got you. Done. Into quarterback's lab. If you don't have somebody chipping, it's a wrap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
So, you know,
remember.
I mean, training camp is just, it's really at that point, it's a battle just to survive it. You know, if you're one of the
Oh,
young guys, if you're a veteran guy, you roll up in there and you already know what to expect. But as a young guy, it's a whole different experience, man. You know, it's a little nerve wracking. It's first time away from mama. You know, you got a
yeah.
bunch of grown ass men that have been living, eating, breathing football. You know, as a freshman, and that defense alone, it was survival for me at that time.
Yeah, I can't, and camp used to be so much harder just because it was 2 days every day, and
Yeah.
there was no one a day walk through at night like they do now. There's no such thing as 2 days anymore. There's less contact than there was. I mean, back in the day, I mean, there was legit contact, and it was like every day it was just like you wake up, you feel like complete garbage. You don't even know how you're gonna make it through the day. Like your feet are blistered, your feet hurt, your knees hurt. You sleep on those terrible beds. It's like you don't get any sleep. I mean, just yeah, but it was like Spartan training. It was like who's the toughest? Because the thing I always told myself mentally is like, is my seventh day better than Marcel Frost's seventh day? Who I went against a lot in camp. My right, when he's playing D end his freshman year, like I mean, I didn't see Will that much because he was going against Shafe, because Shane had a bad shoulder, so he didn't really do a lot of one-on-one pass rush. So he'd go against Shafe, and I mean, Shafe wouldn't even be out of his, he'd fall down out of his stance, and Will already be touching, touching Ross or whoever the G8 was or whoever the intern was taking the snap. He'd already be touching him, and like, I mean, I honestly don't even think Shafe ever touched Will ever, like in a single one-on-one.
Ross climbing the pocket. It's probably the greatest thing ever. And no, so I mean,
Oh,
literally, it was me and Shafe that were battling out reps and going against Will. And I remember like one of the biggest confidence boosters for me was my dad was listening into somebody's radio show. It was during, Buckeye camp. It was your first year. It was my second year, which was 2003. And Will had made some comment on a local radio show that my dad was listening to. He said, where they were like, who do you think's the most improved offensive lineman in training camp from last year to this year? And he said me. And I was like, dude, if I got, and it was so ironic because he might have just felt bad because like earlier that morning or in one of the sessions, he like peeled back after Zwick threw an interception and just depleted me. And we were in shells. We were in shells. I had shorts on and we had pads and helmet. You know, I didn't mean shit, but still, it was shells.
yeah.
You don't do a knockout blow on somebody, a peel back block on an interception. And Will straight lit me up. And I jumped back up, and this is when I knew I first started getting some more confidence about, defending my own territory. Was I jumped up and I got right back in his face. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And
Yeah.
so I think after that, like I started competing against him even a little bit harder because I had a little chip on my shoulder, and I think he could tell it. And Will and I kind of really connected from that day forward. Like he kind of saw that like I didn't just lay down like some little punk from Glen Oak High School and just give up, or like cower back and sit back and forth on the depth chart. Like he saw that I was genuinely competing, that I wanted to be there, that I wanted to get better. And I think I earned his respect that day. And that went a long way for my confidence and a long way for me becoming a better player in 04, 05, and 06.
Oh, I know it's funny how when you just stand up for yourself, you fight. Like those guys respect that a lot more than cowering because at least they feel like they can take you into battle, and you're not gonna. It's better
Right.
to be a warrior making pots than a potter in a war. It's like it's better to like show that you've got some bite to you because like I remember I used to get in fights with Kudla every day. I get in fights with basically everybody, Marcel, like every day, and it was just like this is part of it. Like I mean, it's just like I'm not either. Mike Kudla benches 700 pounds or whatever. Like it just I'm not gonna take take it from anybody because it's not. It's just not my character. And again, I wasn't a guy that was out trying to get in fights every minute of every day, but it's just like, you got to prove that you're gonna bite back, because these guys they'll try you, they'll test you. Everybody's miserable. Everybody feels like garbage, So it's like it's just part of it of just being just a sour, angry dude like I always was. And I think that just
Old
when you get
sour.
yeah, exactly. I
Old
was
sour,
major,
man.
so.
That's you.
I was just like, I wasn't there to make friends, and and it showed because I didn't care. All I cared about is being productive and and trying to get a spot. Good.
High school's different though. Like high school's
Oh,
different
yeah.
because you got your boys and like, but when you get to college and you get into training camp, like you just said, you legit, if you want to play, you have to take it as though anytime you step between the white lines, you don't have any friends because everything is being recorded. Every rep could be the difference in you maybe starting in the jersey scrimmage and getting the first look from the coach to be the starter on opening day. So like,
Absolutely.
some dudes like Kenny Peterson, for instance, like, we'd sit there and we'd do one-on-one pass rush. He's like, TJ, make it look good. He wants to still win. And so eventually, you're all at a point where every single rep, if you don't win that battle, man, that's a decision. That's something the coach is saying. So you really can't have any friends out there. You can't have any type of agreements like, oh, hook me up, man. It's like, it's every man for himself, because everybody was all state. Everybody was prep or parade or all Midwest or all Gazette, whatever. Everybody was the best of the best. What's it going to take now for you to prove yourself or to stand out? And that's the hardest thing to do. And hell, we know that our offense was a freaking all-star team. I mean, we had 4 or 5 All-Americans every year.
Yeah, and for me, I remember like with Will and I mean D-Man had a really bad injury, so when we'd combo him, I'd always say, hey, look, I'm coming down on you, D-Man. And he'd say, he would say, make it look good. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm not trying to hurt Darian Scott because he's going to play on Saturday. I don't. Yeah, and like Will, if Will was banged and, hey, don't big homie, on a Thursday, I'd chill. But the rest of those guys were fair game. I didn't care about any of the rest of them. Like Will and Darian, I had a different level of respect for just because, they won the national title. And Darian had a significant injury the whole season. And he played through it and he's out there practices. Like, when he tells me not to tee off on him, I'm not teeing off on D-Man because I had a lot of respect for D-Man. And he was always really good to me. And so was Will. I love Will to death. And it was hard when all the stuff went down and he's not here anymore. But, I don't know. Like you learn, in high school, it's different because, you're a 6'5", 285-pound guy playing tackle or whatever your senior year. And it's like, no one else is going to beat you out. No one's going to take your spot because there's just not, you're the biggest guy on the team. So it's like you get to college and there's 20 guys in the O-line room that are the same size as you. So you better figure out an edge or figure out something that's going to put you ahead of those guys. If it's your effort, your toughness, your technique.
In high school, you can look out for your boys. In college, you got to look out for yourself. Because if you don't, ain't nobody else going to look out for you because everybody's looking out for their best interest because everybody, before their career is over, they want to, I mean, it's one thing to play for, it's one thing to be on the Buckeyes roster. It's another thing to start for the Ohio State Buckeyes. You and I both know that. It's two different ball games, 2 different balls of wax.
Yeah. It's one thing to wear the jersey. It's another thing to actually play and play really well. So I'm going to get into TJ Downing. So TJ, we've kind of spilled on this. Tell me a little bit about you, what we can expect. I mean, obviously, you're a fantastic player, one of the best guards in school history, a guy that was nasty on the field, vicious, a guy that was a great teammate. But talk a little bit about, what we can expect. I mentioned we're going to do some 05 and 06 game breakdowns. We're going to break down some current film from last year's game or last year's games, and then we're going to try to break down this year's games as we get the tape in. But tell the audience a little bit about TJ Downing.
Is that why you kind of transitioned out of that last thing to, it's one thing to put on the jersey. It's one thing to put it on and be the best ever. So you're just coming into me with 72 on, opening up that hole for Pitt. I don't know if most people won't understand this maybe as well as you would, or maybe some of your Perry brothers, your little buddies from back in high school in the Federal League. But the guy that we were actually blocking that game was a guy that you guys got beat by in the state semis who went to Solon, who was John McGlovin.
Glavin.
John
McGlovin's
Glavin.
the guy. McGlovin's the super bad guy.
John Glavin.
Oh God, we were taught.
I think we were calling him McGlovin during the whole thing, like McGlovin.
we were dogging him in this game too. I mean, I was only a sophomore. I didn't even play against Solon in 2000, but when we were going against this guy, I was like, I can't believe this is the guy that was like the all Division I defender player of the year or whatever in Ohio. And I was like, this is the guy, because he really was good against us in 2000, but it was like, I'm all grown up now, so it's a little bit different.
Baby brother done grown up a little bit.
Oh God, Baby Yoda is now real Yoda.
No, it was that was funny, and that's what really people. I mean, obviously, you guys all knew about me as a player was I always had everybody's back. So like, I knew the different situations, and even like when we were up in Iowa, you remember I had to beat them dudes up for you, man, because
Beat
they
up
were trying
Mitch
to take deep
King. You
shots
beat up
at you.
Mitch King. Oh,
I
I
had to
got
beat
that.
I
I
had to
have
beat
that
up
film.
Cupcake.
Yeah, your boy Cupcake. I have that Mitch King film. We're gonna watch that. You punch him in the back of the
Yeah.
head after the play. That was great.
That was Cupcake, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess if anything, I mean, I was lucky. I was defined as a tough player. I mean, there was people that said that I didn't really play with like great offensive line technique, but I was just somebody that like got to the person that I was supposed to block and just started fighting them. And that's really a lot of it. I mean, the amount of the competition that we went against. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but like when you talked about playing at a high level, like we always all took pride in that, and really it's something I've kind of carried into my life after football. I mean, if you have a passion for something, treat it as such that you want to perform at it in a high level, and try and be the best at it. And really, if you get up with that type of mindset every day, and that's kind of what I've done. I mean, post football, it's I was lucky that you know, the way things worked out for me after you mentioned, I blew my knee out twice early in my career, and then I was still able to start, 25 plus games through over 3 seasons. And um, most people in my situation, they probably would have never made it back. I mean, my injury happened in spring ball. Like that gives you 3 months to get ready. And I ended up logging more minutes in 2005 than any other offensive player on Ohio State's team. It was like 418 minutes. That was good. They were letting you guys take off your tape a little bit earlier than me. But
No,
coming off the
I missed 3 games that year. I got hurt. I got hurt when
right.
our boy broke my knee out at Penn State. Blew
Yeah,
my
Drew
knee out.
Norman
So
took me out the game, man, and we had the
oh
pleasure of
god.
ushering in the early young career of Alex Boone.
That was
And that
amazing.
that that could be a podcast. That could be a whole separate show for just one day. We could talk about Boone.
Get Booney in here. You get Booney on the show. That'd be great.
No, but most people in my situation, you saw it plenty times that you blow your knee out, something like that. You never see them play again because it just gets worse and worse. And thankfully, knock on wood, that Doc Chris Kading, I mean, we all have had some type of surgery, some form or another from Doc Kading. He took care of me, man. And every time after we scored a touchdown, dude, I always dapped him up because he put me back together, and I was able to have a 2 or 3 year run that was probably as good as any offensive guard has ever had at Ohio State. I mean, with all the accolades that came just because you trimmed that dumbass mohawk in my head. I think I was on the cover of every major paper from the Midwest to the Eastern Seaboard. I was on USA Today, the Plain
Oh
Dealer,
my
the
god.
Beacon, the Repository, all because you got some clippers out and shaved a mohawk in my head. And it was like Sports Illustrated came about, and then it's your mid-season. I was first team All-American by Sports Illustrated. I don't know what happened to drop me to second team All-American by the end of the season, but we did. In my defense, to get 2 guys that were made over top of me. One, we went into his house and we beat the crap out of them, and that was Justin Blaylock in Texas. So that gives me the odds over top of him. And the other one was Josh Beekman from Boston College. I didn't even know Boston College.
Beekman
I
beat you
thought they
up.
were like one. I thought they were 1 AA at that point. I didn't even think they were
Beek
Division One. And he gets drafted by the Bears, and he plays like 7-8 years with them.
Beekman. I played with
So
Beekman. Beekman's a nice
I,
guy.
I was second team All American and don't have a tree in Buckeye Grove because of Beekman and Blaylock, and that's bum status because I was the best offensive guard in college football in 2006, and the photo video evidence is there to prove it. Beekman.
Beekman beat man.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is gonna be amazing. So we're gonna go down to the O line. I got my boy Luke Whippler here at center here. Your thoughts on what the offensive line lacked last year, what they need to become this year? Obviously it's always quote unquote a whole new group when you go from year to year, but a lot of the guys are the same. Paris is moving to left tackle. Luke's back at center. DeJuan's back at right tackle. Matt Jones. The funny thing about Matt Jones starting at right guard is he didn't start. He started a couple games when Thayer was hurt last year. People don't realize he started against Alabama in the national championship game 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's pretty heady stuff to have a guy that started a championship game 2 years ago. Kind of was a backup last year. Now he's back starting again. And at left guard, you have Donovan Jackson, might be the most talented guard we've ever had, or he's up there. I mean, he's a freak of nature. He's a 500-pound bencher. Yeah, runs a 4.48. He's a freak. But that's going to be a talented line. Give me your thoughts on where the line needs to go. Justin Fry, who is our contemporary, he's your age, from Indiana, is now the offensive line coach, replacing Greg Studwara. What are your thoughts on the O-line? What needs to get better? What needs to happen during training camp? Maybe talk a little bit about, this is like they're putting the pads on tomorrow for the first time. What's that first day of pads for an offensive line at Ohio State?
Better not be a wimpler. Better be a whippler, not a wimpler. When you come for that hoot and holler drill. Hey, what did I say in my senior speech? I said it's real in the field, man. And the first day when the pads go on, it is real. I'm surprised. So I'm guessing right now I'll be labeled as the toughest offensive guard that ever played at Ohio State. And so now Donovan Jackson, wearing number 74, is going to get most talented offensive guard.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's heavy praise for a redshirt freshman. It's heavy praise.
He didn't redshirt. He played last year. He's a sophomore.
Okay, well, whatever. I mean, he's got next year for COVID, I think, doesn't he?
That's right. No, because he was a freshman. Man, I don't know if the freshman last year got next year. I think the 2020 guys that were on the roster did, but I don't think he does. I don't think he's going to be here for 4 years anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No, I mean, I think he's probably a guy that will step up and play way above his pay grade as just considered a young guy. I mean, for Whippler, I mean, that's what I kind of said in that thread the other day, was that anytime you have a center that's coming back, I mean, it would probably be, I'm not smart enough to do the statistical analysis on it. I know that, if you win the turnover margin 87.5% of the time, you're going to win the football game. But if you have your center returning on a Division I college football team, I got to think your odds of winning a league championship probably go up, just because that's such a key component with everybody doing shotgun nowadays. I think I saw something on another thread, somebody asking, would we see more CJ under center? But with the amount of receivers and the talent you have there, and you know what it was, man, when we played. I mean, Jim Bowman would tell us there's only one football, but you got 4 wide receivers, maybe 4 or 5 now, with Jaden Ballard inserting himself, that all can make huge plays. You've got a group of phenomenal tailbacks led by Henderson, who, I mean, he could end up breaking out as the best tailback in the country this year. So there's only one football, so there's going to have to be a lot of unselfish play by a lot of different guys, knowing that you may be a decoy this time and you're not getting the ball, but everybody wants the ball. And I know that for Whippler, for him to be able to have that experience coming back from last year, that ultimately right there makes that offensive line markedly better. With a new coach coming in, it seems like he's the type of guy, Fry, that he likes to move the guards. He likes to pull them. I think I joked again on that thread, like, we're going to see some old Packers. Remember Packer left, Packer right?
It was literally the Green Bay Packer play. We ran it one time against Miami and turned it on. They blew you guys up, and they never ran it again.
Dude, I remember Rob Sims and I looking at each other in the huddle when they called Packer, and we just smiled at each other like, this is going to be the greatest thing we've ever got to do in our life, which is just 2 guards just pulling front side, hoping that somebody gives us one guy gets a seal, one guy gets into the alley to lead, which is typically the backside guy. And we're like, man, it got totally blown up, and it was such a bummer. and Bowles was like, oh, guess we can't run that the rest of the year, because he was almost treating it as like it was a trick play anyways. Like, we're gonna run it like a reverse with Teddy. It's only going to come out so many times. It's not going to be like Packer left, Packer right, which we wanted it like once a series.
Yeah.
But I think with what Fry wants to do, having athletic guys, lean guys, I think that plays into these guys' hands. I mean, DeWand, he moves around well on a basketball court for his size. On a football field, he handles himself well, but you wonder about, how far you want him moving around outside of the box, So if you allow him just to cave down one side and you're pulling guys around him, I like your success running the ball that way. Paris is, he's kind of like, I guess you could say, when you compare him to maybe like a Nick and Thayer from last year, it was more Nick who kind of started his ascent first, but Thayer was kind of right behind there. So now it's kind of like DeWand, and Paris is kind of right there trying to compete to be a little bit better than him. Because there was times where I thought Thayer played better than Nick, but Nick played better than Thayer at other times. This is, how it goes, man, between left tackles and right tackles. There's a competition level there. I know that when you and Boone went, I know from things you've told me before, you wanted to make sure that when you went out there onto the field, you played better than Alex Boone did. And Alex Boone wanted to make sure when they rolled the film, he looked better than Kirk Barton did. It's just a natural peer competition thing that we go through. So I think you're going to see that with DeWand and Paris. That makes for a better offensive line because you're both playing at an elite high level.
Well, it's not just that, but it's the tackles on the other side too. Because I mean, when you're playing Texas and they got Justin Blaylock playing guard, like I'm sure you want to be the best guard on the field. It was
why
like,
you got to bring him up again, man? He's a bum. He wasn't even the best. He doesn't. I deserve a tree. He deserves a 24/7 loss that he took in his own house. Like, he should have actually called me and said, listen, dude, I'm sorry that they named me first team All-American because you came into my house and you beat us 24-7 in Austin. I just want to let you know that I'm personally going to recognize you as first team All-America guard, and I would have been able to sleep better at night knowing that.
How many – so you won a national championship. I never did. So how many rings do you get when you win a national championship?
You get two. You get one from the Big Ten, or you get one from the university recognizing the Big Ten and the national championship, and then the second one is just from the Fiesta Bowl, which is the bowl game it's in.
See, because I think that the biggest reason that he never called you or heard you is because when he won a national championship in 2005, he was playing right tackle and he got the game-winning block when Vince Young scrambled to the right end zone. I think he had those rings in his ears as earplugs, and he couldn't hear what you were saying when you hear you talking about All-American. So, I assume that's why I never got back to you, but I could be wrong. But again, how it is, man. Like I wanted to be better than Doug Free. I mean, I got so sick of hearing about Doug Free in 2006 leading up to that game. And I was like, oh God, I was just so, and then Vernon Golston beats him for a sack, and Vernon didn't have a sack in his whole career and beats him for a sack in like the first quarter. And I was like,
I'll trade every start I had at Ohio State for Doug Free's NFL career.
I do it for Justin Blaylock's career because he played like 10 years in the league. So it's like, and he got a big fat ass deal too. So I'm telling you, it's like, it's funny. These guys that we didn't like is like, man, they lasted a long time in the league. But dude, I love your thoughts on the O-line. I'm going to wrap this because we're over 30. So this has been a great show, but appreciate you, brother. This is going to be a blast. Anything you got to say to close this one out?
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. Always been a fan of the Scoop, and now I'm in the Scoop family, man. So shoot, I'm ready to rock and roll, man. Let's start lighting this thing up, and we're getting pretty close to season. People will be able to find a lot of stuff coming down the pike from me in regards to high school stuff. I've been doing play-by-play covering high school in Northeast Ohio and even a lot of Central Ohio teams throughout the last 8 years. So interested to get on here and start talking about a lot of different things with you guys, doing some pods, doing some shows, and also just getting in there on the message board, hearing what you guys have to say. And if there's anything that I can ever answer, feel free to ask it.
Real quick, plug your Twitter. It's at OG7Deuce, correct?
Yeah, you can catch me.
Oh,
Stark Media Team. You get a lot of different football stuff, high school football stuff, all different sports, basketball, wrestling, swimming and diving, baseball, softball, lacrosse. We cover it all. We do some films. We got some different documentary projects. So check me out at Stark Media Team and then at OG7Deuce. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check them all out.
Perfect, brother. Appreciate you, my man. I'm going to wrap this thing up. What a show. Wow. That being said, our team is really expanding. We have some outstanding contributors now. 2 brand new insiders on the level of Nevada Buck. We got TJ Downing, a former All-American. We have Joe Drame, rising superstar. And then Bill the Bank Green, who's just been absolutely on fire with information. It's the best. It's the most active board in the Ohio State message board sphere. Best inside information, the best community. Appreciate you guys. Would love to have you guys on the Scoop. If you guys enjoyed the content, please leave a like, subscribe to our channel. Again, you're not going to find stuff like this anywhere else. It's been fantastic. It's football season, baby, so it's time to go. So as always, thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I appreciate all you guys do for us. Appreciate bringing you this great content. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.